So here we have it, Smelly River Tank Inspector, and I already pulled up the Object Force 16. So as you can see here, it's cost a 2.5 million credits. Well, it's tier 8 tank, so that's pretty neat. The top armor value is 110 millimeters, spaced also 110 millimeters. So let's take a look where we actually have that armor. So out here, 110 millimeters. I already said the turret has 110 millimeters. The equivalent lowest is, well, 120 millimeters, because, well, the turret has a nice circling round, and, well, actually the complete front is 110 millimeters, and out here we have 110 spaced armor. And, well, the gun, there you have a little bit of 45 millimeters of spaced armor, but it's straight in front of the 110 millimeters, so you will not penetrate directly at the gun. But beside there is pretty much everything you can penetrate. If we take a look at the little commander's cupola, if you are ever going to shoot at it, is a 75 millimeters, but it's not worth your time because, well, the rest of the tank is a lot less, or actually a lot easier to penetrate too, because it's easier to hit. And if we're going to take a look at that part, 20 millimeters, and that's the top side. Well, it's so damn sloped. If you take a look at it like this, at the range it's 44 millimeters, so actually you would even have to be able to penetrate that. If you bounced that, I would think you were a magician. But, well, I've seen some strange stuff, so. And there, the 75 millimeters, but it's angled pretty well, so it's the equivalent of 120 millimeters. And the lower glaze is 60 millimeters, but, well, you have a lot more to shoot at and enough penetration to penetrate. If we take a look at the side, only a little bit to see from the side there, 45 millimeters, and below that there's an extra 20 millimeters of spaced armor. That are the tracks, but even 85 millimeters of armor are easy to penetrate at tier 8, so you should not expect to bounce. And the side of the turret, 75 millimeters. It's, well, a little bit less round than the front, but it's still rounded. Now when we take a look here, 60 millimeters, but the rear was 45 millimeters. So now only actually the rear is 45 millimeters. This come with a surprise to me, because, well, I've taken a look at the AT-15 for example, and it says 228 millimeters frontal armor, but it only actually is 112. So do not believe everything you read. But this thing, the rear of the turret is 45 millimeters, but a little bit to the side it still counts as side, and the equivalent is 75 millimeters. So mostly the side is 75 millimeters, except here the little bit that actually is the frontal turret. Here it is 75 millimeters, the equivalent a little bit higher because it's round, and here you have 60 millimeters, but the equivalent is about 75 or higher. And the side and rear of the body are 45 millimeters. So that's exactly a pretty easy tank when you see it like armor wise. So instead of looking at the armor, you should actually look at what this tank has for well, more specific statistics, and, well, that's also in Tank Inspector. Here we have the complete, well, list of ups and downs that you would have from this tank. And if we're going to take a look at the firepower, the penetration is better than with the stock gun, 201 millimeters. The damage went up potentially. The damage per minute also went up pretty high, and the module damage also went up pretty much. Reload time 7.671 shots per minute. Second, I think. Yeah, seconds. And the rate of fire, well, this is C per minute, but it actually is a pretty much a lot lower, so not really that good. Maximum ammo 35, caliber 100 millimeters, the maximum distance 720 meters, so beyond that the shell will disappear. And well, that's something very interesting. You have a lot of maps that are 800 by 800, so when you're standing just 200 meters from the side, you can hit the whole map, like most tanks can. The shell flying speed 895 meters per second. That's pretty interesting. You can shoot just over 1 second. Well, actually it will take under a second to reach the maximum distance, so the moment you pull the trigger you will see the damage at the enemy. Shell gravity 9.81 meters per second. Well, I don't know the English words so fast, so the average damage dealt for me is 1110.2 health points. The average kills I got with this tank is 0.9. If we take a look at maneuverability, there is something pretty neat about this. The gun depression 3 degrees. I was wrong, it's 3 degrees, not 2 degrees. And if we take a look at the elevation, it's 15 degrees, so do not expect this tank to hit something that's above it or below it. You just have to fight on equal ground. But if we take a look here, aim time actually is a little bit lower, mostly because the crew I have, where this program is getting its data from, is from my account on my World of Tanks folder, so it's pretty neat. And if we take a look more at mobility, the specific power already discussed. Speed limitations: forward 50, reverse 20. Reverse doesn't come up in World of Tanks. It's something to talk about too, because reversing at a 20 kilometers per hour is just as fast as some of the tank destroyers or slower heavy tanks, although at tier 8 the heavy tanks are all faster than 20 kilometers per hour. The terrain resistance actually, pretty low, and on soft terrain it's 1.5 meters per second squared, but that is not that much, considering this tank is actually pretty light. It can pivot, it says, but I haven't experienced that this tank can turn where it stands, so pivot actually is a no. Brake force is a 24,000 newton, so it will be standing still pretty fast. Maximum climb angle is 25 degrees, so do not expect to climb steep hills with this tank. So survivability already talked about, although there are some statistics here we need to talk about. The ammo rack 180 health went down a little bit, and the engine chance of fire 12%. Well, that's something from me. My survival rate isn't that high in this tank. I haven't had any good tanks games yet. The turret health went up a little bit, and the hull health went down, and the tank health actually is lower than average. Module health, for the rest, you probably have seen everything. Armor already talked about, so that's that. The scout ability. Almost everything is better except the view range, which is a little bit lower. My average assisting by spotting isn't really that much, and by D-track also isn't that much. So, well, I hope you guys will have something to see forward then. And well, my battles, average tier I get into with this tank is 9.22. The win rate 52.53%, but that's my own win rate based on my life stats of, well, 16,000. Oh no, the base, that's not my own. That's the win rate, average win rate of the life stat of this tank. And there are 163,000 battles played with this tank over all the players. The average experience on this tank of all the players is only, well, 411. My average experience should be a little bit higher. The average efficiency and WN7 and stuff like that isn't that high. Well, mostly because it's a new tank, people tend to shoot it the moment they see it. Kamikaze ratio, pretty high. Sleeping ratio, well, just because there are guys who join a battle and then just don't play anything. So sleeping ratio is pretty high. The average battle time just under 5 minutes. And the economy, well, it's a pretty neat tank to, well, get money with. Every tier 8 medium should be able to make money, and this tier 8 medium is able to do that too. And then if you look at the weights of everything, max load is 27 tons, and you will not get there when you take all these things together. So I hope you guys had some useful information about this, and well, I will surely be showing you guys a lot of replays when I am going to show you guys the replays for this review, but not in this video. I'll see you guys next time or on the battlefield, and good luck, and watch your backs, because maybe I'll be there to shoot some shells into it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Tanks with Black Nike. And today, well, I'm going to do a in-depth review for you guys, but I'm not really showing any replays from this tank that I'm going to review for you guys, because, well, the games I had weren't any good or great, or weren't really showing you what this tank is actually capable of in my own hands. And well, that was my tablet going off. And well, what I am showing you guys is everything that I do know about it at the moment, and what I think makes this great tank a great tier 8 tank, and why this tank is actually one of the 3 medium tanks mostly chosen in team battles by the professional players. So, the tank I am actually talking about is the Object 416, a Russian tier 8 medium tank, and it looks like a, well, a flattened A44. I can't really show you the A44 because I sold it when I got this tank. And well, I'm at 25,000 experience towards the last gun, which cost you 54,000 experience, so that's pretty much. The turret is easily to unlock, just a few experience points. Tracks the same, you don't get a new engine, but it's lighter than the A44 and lower. You should have this one because, well, if you look, the Object 416, and well, I have it. Oh, you probably wouldn't have it then, but I have it because I already had the SU-122-54, and it will also be on the Object 430 version 2. So, but you will have this one. It can be mounted on the KV-4, actually on a whole lot of Russian tanks. Also on the T-50, T-44, the IS-3, the KV-3. If we take a look further on, the KV-4, and well, even on the MT-25 if you have that one unlocked as well. So you will have a radio with 730 meters of signal range, and you maybe want to unlock this one, but you will be playing a brawling medium tank, which is very low, so 760 meters of signal range isn't really necessary. I unlocked it because, well, I'm going for a full elite stasis for this tank. Also willing to go for the T-54 eventually, but I'm first going for the Object 432 because that will be the next review in this line I'm going to give you guys. But further on, talking about this tank, it has a 1200 HP pool, which for a medium tank is normal. We'll see most medium tanks will have around the 1200 hit points at tier 8. It only weighs 24.5 tons with equipment mounted. Without, it will be about 24 tons or even less. And well, with the 400 horsepower engine, if we take a look, it has a specific power of 16.29 horsepower per ton. So that's pretty good. That will mean that it's actually going to accelerate pretty fast. And well, it has a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour, and that's, well, about the average of all the mediums. You have some that are faster, some that are slower. Mostly the Americans are slower, the British are slower, the Japanese are slower, the Russian ones and German ones are actually faster, and well, the Chinese ones are faster too. And while the French at tier 8 don't have a medium tank, so we can't compare it with the French. It has a traverse speed of 52 degrees per second. That's actually pretty good. It will mean that you will be able to turn pretty fast, but that is something that's very necessary because, well, the turret isn't turnable for 360 degrees. You're only able to turn the turret for about 170 to 175 degrees. So you can actually only shoot forward, not even completely sideways. The hull armor is 75 from the front. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Lower glazes aren't really hittable, but not needed because you only have 75 millimeters of frontal hull armor and 45 in the sides and the rear. But well, that much side isn't visible because, well, it's a low profile tank. The turret armor, 110 millimeters in the front, 75 in the sides and 45 in the rear. And in the rear you have those two nice boxes. So that is pretty nice. The standard shell damage of the stock gun is, well, average 175 millimeters of penetration with 250 damage. If we're going to take a look at the upgraded gun, it will be a lot better. You will get 26 penetration extra on normal shells and 70 more damage average per shell. If we take a look at the rate of fire, it stays the same with the upgraded gun as with the stock gun. But well, the stock gun isn't really that bad, so you probably wouldn't really want to use free experience to get the better gun, because this tank is pretty nice playable with the stock gun. And if we take a look at dispersion at 100 meters, then that's mostly after a shot or well, actually fully aimed, I think. 39 meters, or 0.39 meters at 100 meters distance, and upgraded gun 0.37 meters at 100 meter distance. Aiming time stays the same, weight goes down a little bit. It does say still 100mm gun, and it's an M63, probably a little bit shorter, or maybe a little bit more, well, better usable. So I hope this will prove for some useful information to you guys already. Well, the third traverse speed, although it can't turn completely to the sides or even get to the rear, it still is a 40 degrees per second traverse speed. And well, side scraping with this tank isn't useful. Getting on hills is, well, I would fairly disagree that you would take advantage of hills with this tank, because mostly you can't shoot over them when you are behind them, and well, when you're going over the hill you will have to refill your complete tank, because well, you can't shoot down because you don't have the gun depression. It's about 2 degrees, but we are going to see about that in Tank Inspector in just a minute. The view range only 380 meters, but considering that this tank is better off fighting close combat and hitting enemies that are actually exponentially bigger than this tank, so let's say a German heavy tank like the Tiger II or the VK, are actually not able to hit you as long as you are standing right beside them. And if you are even going higher up the line of those German heavy tanks and medium tanks, they will not be able to penetrate or hit you when you are standing right next to them, and you can shoot them in the side while they can't do anything back to you. So the view range isn't necessary, but it can come in handy when you have it a little bit higher. So I mounted the coated optics for that. 10% more view range, that will bring it up to over 400 meters. The signal range, well, stock, if you have played Russian tanks, 730 meters. If you haven't played World of Tanks and this is your first tier 8 tank and you haven't unlocked the KV3 or the MT25, you will not be able to mount the 730 meter signal range radio yet. So you will have to do with a tier 8 which only has 525 meters, and that's too little. You can't react to the battlefield when you have this radio mounted. So it's highly recommended that if you don't have that many hours in World of Tanks and this is your first tier 8 tank, and actually your first tank beyond tier 6 from the Russians, it's highly recommendable that you, well, unlock at least the second radio for the 730 meters of signal range to be able to react to what your teammates are doing, and well, in that manner try to support them at a bigger range and flank. So let's move on. Cruise skills, well, it's same as the A44. If you haven't watched that review, I would say you do that. I discuss what crew skills are important, mostly because the crew skills I am talking about there are focused on the line that I am following for this tank. So I actually have talked about all the crew skills you can use or not use, or maybe use. It all depends for yourself. Well, We can talk about this tank with equipment. I have mounted 3 equipment slots, well, directly. Took 2 of them from the A44. One of them is the enhanced gun laying drive. More, well, aiming speed. Since I only have a 2.3 second aiming time, my aim speed should be a little bit higher. And with more aiming speed, well, it will decrease while you are driving straight. Every time you make a corner, you will start aiming already, even when you are driving. So it will be a little bit smaller, although not that much when you are actually using a vertical stabilizer, which may be a better choice sometimes. But the gun laying drive will do perfectly, because this tank is pretty good at sniping too. And well, I chose for a medium caliber tank gun rammer. Well, that's the only one that you can actually mount, the only gun rammer you can actually mount on this tank. And well, it's just because a little bit extra loading time will let you fire another 250 damage shell into the enemy, and with the upgraded gun another 320 damage shell into an enemy, which might even save you. And the coated optics for just a little bit more view range for when you are actually moving in the front line and no one else is able to spot beyond 400, or actually to look beyond 400 meters. So you will be able to look beyond the 400 meters and spot for your teammate and get a little bit extras in experience and spotting damage. So what you could also mount is the improved ventilation class, and well, maybe the wet ammo rack class 1, but well, it's a Russian tank, so you will be ammo racked quite a lot. Tends to happen with Russian tanks. And instead of the gun laying drive, a vertical stabilizer, because well, more accuracy during movement and turret rotation instead of more aiming speed should make your tank a bit more brawling. So well, I hope you guys already have something to look forward to now. We are going to watch at a little part of Tank Inspector to see if you guys if I can give you guys some great tips.